Hello everybody, Cyrus here, the Offgridmaker, recording another video this morning. I was just going to do another walk and talk episode. So the topic that I wanted to talk about is for the beginners out there, for the folks out there that they want to move off grid. I'm not exactly sure how to do it. There's a bunch of different ways to do it, and I'm just overwhelmed by everything involved. So I wanted to talk about the first steps, the first things you can do to help move you down the path. And so the last week we talked about, or the last walk and talk episode, I talked about what living off grid means, and ultimately what's important is what it means to you. And so now that you've had some time to think about that, and you've got in your mind an idea of what off-grid living is going to look like for you, now you can start to think about planning it out and mapping out the journey. And it is a journey. It is a, point A to point infinity type of journey. And it's just important to always be conscious about moving that next step closer to where it is that you visualize yourself being. And so I'm going to start this in I'm kind of moving off into I'm in the national forest here, and I can hear a creek. I want to go see what it is, so then I'll just keep talking. But anyway, where was I? So the first steps really are, do you already have a piece of land, or do you still have to get one? Or do you have a place to live off grid? Maybe you don't have a piece of land of your own, but you have relatives that'll let you, build a little cabin somewhere and live, whatever the situation is. You want to, once you've identified where it is you want to live, then you can start thinking about the things like the water solutions that will work best for you, how you'll manage timber that might be on the property, how you'll grow food based on what the topography is, what the property looks like, what kind of soil it has, how much sunshine, how long's the growing season, those kinds of things. But even if before you have the land, and maybe you don't even have an idea yet of where you're going to do this, there are a ton of skills to start learning now. Bushcraft skills, gardening skills, hunting skills, pioneer skills. These are things like, and all of this too depends on how far off grid do you want to live. Maybe you want to live, like a pioneer, and so you want to trap and hunt food, you want to tan hides, you want to make your own clothing, you want to, how far you want to go with it is up to you, but you need to start learning those skills that are going to be required now while you can. And what's important about learning new skills is practicing those skills. So it's one thing to watch a video. I'm going to turn the camera around so you guys can see what I'm looking at. There we go. So you want to be able to practice any of these skills that you're learning, because you don't want to be complete novice when you begin. You want to at least have a good understanding and some practice under your belt. The best example I can come up with is when we decided we were going to do this, I started YouTube and everything. One of the things I learned was how to make a fire with wet wood. And so when we moved out here, we basically lived in a tent and cooked on a campfire. Then we moved into, what my wife called the wooden tent, which was just a 7-foot by 9-foot shed, and we were still cooking on a campfire because there wasn't anywhere to cook in there. But it was important to be able to build a fire every day, and sometimes it was raining. And so I had read books and watched videos on how to start a fire with wet wood, but I had never gone outside and started a fire with wet wood. I just assumed I knew how to do it. Well, we moved out here, and all of a sudden I've got to make a fire with wet wood, and I can't get it done. And it took quite a while to figure that out, and I finally figured it out, and now I would consider myself an expert because I've done it so many times. But that's just an example of what I mean, that whatever skills you're learning, you've got to practice those skills. You don't really know those skills until you've practiced them, no matter how much you've read or how many videos you've watched. And that is really the first step in your journey to moving off grid, is starting to learn all the skills that you're going to need when you move off grid. And that is determined by how you are going to define what it means to live off grid for you. If living off grid to you means living in a modern house with a large solar system and all the amenities of the modern house, well, you don't really need to learn how to build a fire with wet wood. You're going to have everything taken care of inside that house. And so that's why the last Walk and Talk episode was about defining what it means to you to live off grid, because that will determine the kinds of skills you're going to have to learn. And that's basically today's episode. So if you're new and just starting your journey, now is the time to start learning. And no matter where you live now, there are things you can do to practice. You can't practice how to build a log cabin right now if you live in an apartment. But if you live in an apartment, you can practice vermiculture and gardening in containers and tying knots, and you can take a weekend and go out and camp. So no matter where you live now, there are ways to practice the skills that you want to learn. And that's all I've got today. I will talk to you guys later in another Walk and Talk episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.